Welcome to the Modal Harmony Workshop. In this series, we'll take a look at how modal chord progressions are constructed and learn a quick and effective system that will enable you to make your own chord progressions or even compose songs using modal harmony. Approaching harmony from a modal perspective is a great way to get fresh and unusual sounds, but it's also a very effective modern way to understand what's going on in more conventional music as well. That's because modal harmony, if studied the right way, is a superset of traditional harmony. But we don't want to overcomplicate things with too much theory. Here at EMP, we always want to be practical. So in this series, we'll immediately use everything we learn at every step to make real music. The first thing you need to understand before we go on is the relationship between scales and modes. Many people think that these are just different terms for the same thing. And indeed, in some cases, it's okay to interchange the two terms and you will be able to communicate what you mean using any of the two. But that's not all there is to it. Understanding the distinction between these two terms will open up doors for greater freedom when putting together chord progressions, but also when improvising. I go into more detail about this in a lesson I made called Scales versus Modes. You'll be able to find a link for it in your lesson notes if you have the full Modal Harmony Workshop course, or below this video if you're watching on the EMP blog or YouTube or anywhere else. In this lesson, we look at the difference between scales and modes as it applies to improvisation and melodic construction. But that information pertains to what we will talk about here as well. It's one of the most popular EMP lessons and it's very useful, so don't miss that. What I will do in this lesson is to give you a quick application of this concept for constructing chord progressions. Let's say I have what is usually called the C major scale. It's a series of notes that can be used in any order, but we usually order them by pitch in order to study them. So it would look like this: C, D, E, F, G, A, B. But in real music, you don't always have to start on the C, and you can play these notes at any register, high or low. So this scale is really an infinite repeating series of these pitches that's only limited by the range of your instrument. So on my guitar, the lowest note is an E, and the highest one is a D. What I want you to notice now is this: every note of this scale can be turned into a chord by adding to it more notes of the scale. I'm not going to go into the construction of chords right now because it's not important for what we're learning now, but I'm just going to give you an example for reference and then we'll discuss chord construction some other time. If I turn every one of these notes into seventh chords, for example, I'm adding 3 notes to each one and I end up with these chords: C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5. And as we said with single notes, you can see this as an infinite series of chords. Since all of these chords are using notes of the original scale exclusively, they are called diatonic chords. That's a good musical term to know. Diatonic means made up from notes of the scale, without any extra foreign notes. You may have diatonic chords, diatonic arpeggios, and other diatonic structures as well. But that's all I'm going to say about that right now, because now we want to get into practical application. You can choose any of these chords to be the tonic chord of a song. This means that any of these can be the home base, the chord you return to most of the time, and the chord that feels as the basis of your progression. You can manipulate rhythm or how much time you stay on each chord to make any one of these sound as the modal root note. This is very important to understand. Any diatonic chord can be the tonic in a piece of music, and depending on which one I make the tonic, that will determine the mode I'm using. Let me give you a simple example to understand this. I will take 3 chords that are next to each other: C major 7, D minor 7, and E minor 7. If I make the C major 7 the tonic, then I can number them as 1, 2, and 3. Then I will construct a simple progression that emphasizes that C major 7 chord. So I started on the 1 chord and then moved to the 2 and the 3. I spent more time on that C major 7 and made everything sound like I'm returning to it as a home base. And indeed, after you hear this progression for a while, your ear is convinced that it is the main chord and expects to hear it. This example was the Ionian mode because that C is the modal root of Ionian, but we'll go into detail on modal root notes on another lesson, so don't worry about that too much. But what if I made that E minor the tonic? In this case, the chords would be numbered 6, 7, and 1. Let's hear an example of that. You see, now you expect to hear the E minor as a home base. This was a Phrygian progression because that E is the Phrygian root note. So I used the same 3 chords, I improvised over them using the same scale, played the rhythm part in a very similar way, yet it sounded very different. That's the beauty of understanding modal harmony. You can use material you already know in new and exciting ways, and finally start to understand why the songs you like sound so cool. Of course, sometimes you may find songs that use extra chords outside the scale in addition to the diatonic chords, but that's something we can talk about after you get this modal foundation established. From what we already said, you can now see that every major scale has 7 chords that come out of it. By making any one of these 7 chords the tonic, you get 7 different modes. Now, if you have a strong background in music theory, you can transpose what we did to any key by using sharps and flats and so on. But you don't really need to know all that to get creative with this. That's why I made a chord progression cheat sheet for you that shows you all the 7 available chords and modes in every key. You can use it to analyze any song and also to make up your own songs. If you bought the Modal Harmony Workshop course, then this should be in your lesson notes. If you didn't, but you're on the EMP mailing list, then you can also find it in the members welcome page along with all your other gifts. If you're not on the mailing list, then you're missing out. I have a lot of free material for you and you can use the form to sign up or just download any of my free lesson packages, which gets you on the list automatically. In coming lessons, we will get into more detail and practice constructing modal chord progressions using a practical step-by-step system. I will also show you how I compose the modal backing tracks in the EMP backing track library using this system. These things can get confusing sometimes, so review this lesson as much as you need to, and if you're interested to learn more about this and take your harmony skills to the next level, you can get the complete Modal Harmony Workshop as a standalone course or by getting the Practice Partner subscription, which gives you streaming access to all my premium courses, including the Modal Harmony Workshop. You can find links and more information for both below. This is Prokopis from EMP. Thanks for watching and remember, enjoy your practice and be effective.